press record.
We're going to press record.
Yeah, it's
We've done that. We're going to press go live. Aaron, you won't be able to jump on the phone for 15 minutes. I'm sorry, mate. If you can just dial your phone down a bit so it doesn't ring loud. You're a legend. Good afternoon. Welcome to our Facebook Q&A. This is episode 37 of our Facebook Q&A. We're here from Vine Resources office in London. I'm here with Mark Crawkin and myself, David Lawrence, and we are taking questions from our candidate network. We've had a few questions in this from last week that we'd like to answer, so we're going to do our best to answer those questions. And I think it's great talking about this kind of stuff anyway, because this is stuff that comes up in the day-to-day, talking to candidates every single day, and obviously some of the things that we hear from our customers as well, from the market. If you've got a question that you'd like to ask us, you can actually just send us a message on Facebook. We'll be happy to answer that question. If you prefer email, you can email us at info@vineresources.com. We don't mention anyone's surnames, and you can even give us a made-up name if you like, but we'll just mention your first name and feel free to ask any question you like. We've taken a pick of the four today, Mark. So we've got the first one from Bernd, who is in Zurich. Bernd, thank you for this. I hope I pronounced that right. Bernd has asked us what the demand has been looking like for business analysts as contractors. Bernd is working in a permanent job in Zurich. He's thinking of switching to contract, and looks like he's talking about working both in Switzerland and Germany. Any views on that?
For me personally, I think the business analyst market has always been fairly buoyant, and obviously that's
Why is that?
broken down into various. Analysis is always happening.
Yeah.
Always change. Lots of change.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's always a good market for business analysts. Obviously, the specifics could be quite different depending on industry and maybe it's with a technical focus to business analysis as systems change.
Yeah.
So difficult to say without knowing exactly obviously your skill set, but yeah, I think it's always been a fairly buoyant market. With regards to Switzerland and Germany, I think you're probably a better place to talk about actual locations there.
I think as Mark said, actually, it's a great market, and there's always demand for good BAs, and that's the key, isn't it? So a lot of customers will always be, as you said, changing, transforming their systems processes. So they need people to really get under the hood, go and talk, to build relationships with those stakeholders. You know, to both of those countries. I'm assuming, Bernd, that you speak German. Native German. That's obviously a huge advantage, both obviously in the Swiss-speaking part of Switzerland, but also in Germany. And I think if you're planning to go to Germany, there's tons of work for this stuff, isn't there?
Yeah, there's certainly a lot going on in the market in general. But again, obviously, look at the market before you move. Check out the locations. Obviously, Germany's a pretty big place.
Yeah.
Where's most buoyant for you? Is it the right place? As in culturally, is it the right fit for you? Do a bit of research and then make that leap.
Yeah, I think you'll be fine, Bernd. So not a problem there. We've got a question from Trevor. Trevor is in Nottingham, in the UK. Trevor, we have this question a few times, but I'll ask it again. So he's a project manager, and he wanted to know how long do recruiters take to look at a CV, and how do they choose who to call? We can obviously only answer this for ourselves, Trevor, but this comes up a lot, both internally and externally.
Yeah.
What's your view, Mark?
It depends. It depends, but it can be a very short amount of time. So it can be literally 30 seconds to a minute, possibly even less. If it's a very defined specification that I'm working to, and I'm looking for a very clear set of skills, and you know, I'll be very much looking for those as quickly as possible, and jump down and be, you know, hit me in the face as far as the kind of profiles are concerned. If it's a more complex role, maybe a more businessy type role, then I'll probably be take a little bit longer, because I'm looking for actual functions or, you know, strategic stuff within a CV. So it really depends, but it could be a very short amount of time. And yeah, I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think it goes also back to, Trevor, how many, just to give you a bit of an insight, how many CVs companies are receiving in the first place. So, you know, clearly, if this was a contract role, and I think you're a contractor, sometimes you can receive, if you're advertising a role, you can receive anything from 100 to 300 CVs in a couple of hours. So you can appreciate, with that kind of workload and everything else that a recruiter has to do throughout the day, it can be very challenging to spend more than a minute or two looking at that candidate's profile. So they're scanning for key things, and I think that making sure that your summary is correct, but more importantly, what you've been doing in the last few roles, and perhaps making sure that it's relevant to the position you're applying to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's key. Making sure it's very relevant to the role that you actually is the role you want. So really, taking that time to put together maybe a covering letter, but actually focusing the CV itself on those core skills that are required for that position.
We talk about this a lot, and a lot of people sometimes, do tailor every single application. You've got people who will use bots to apply for every single role that goes out there. I mean. So it's really, there's no right or wrong. The challenge always will be is trying to find the right skills and experience, and often or not, you're trying to sell that to the customer, and so is everyone else. So it's trying to find those, narrow it down, maybe using those keywords, key skills, and then it's about having a conversation with yourself as a candidate to find out if you're the right match for that role.
Yeah, I think that's the second part of the question, is how do we go about who we decide who to call? Well, clearly we're looking for as close as match as possible to the specification we have. So yeah, it's all about really, for us, trying to find and tick as many boxes as possible from the profile.
And Trevor, we'll find out a lot from making that call, because we're also looking for those right motivations in the candidate to change or to be available, the right rate, the right location, and all those other factors that you can get a good sense even for a few minutes on a phone call before perhaps you're having a video interview or something else. We had a message from an email from Cassandra on Facebook. Cassandra works in data analytics in Germany. I think she's in Munich. She's in Munich. And she wanted to know how she can negotiate her notice period. She has a longer notice period than most people that she knows, and she's not happy in her company. She's been there for just over 2.5 years. What would you suggest?
Difficult one, because as soon as you start talking about notice period, you're probably giving a clear indication that you're looking at moving on. Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult. I think if you talk about notice period because you want to find something else and your notice period is that long, but it actually is contractually you're bound to it. It may be that you have to make that leap, and it may be if it's a longer notice period that most companies are accepting that. In your industry, then you may have to, depending on obviously how buoyant your market is, how confident you are in your ability, make that leap to actually hand in your notice before you have something, which sounds very scary, but it may be the only choice you have. But I think as soon as you start having the conversations around notice period with your current employers, I think they're probably going to get a sense that you're looking to move anyway.
I just say, Cassandra, it also depends on your relationship with your immediate manager. Because if you've got a good relationship with them, clearly having that kind of conversation and being very open about why you're unhappy, and it may be that that unhappiness can be overcome because it might be something that you haven't discussed with them. So I think you also have to dig deep and say, are you going to be able to resolve whatever those issues are by having a direct conversation and confronting them head on, or do you feel you've exhausted that and now it's time to move?
Yeah, and I think if you're actually in a process of applying for roles and be very honest about that notice period, you may actually find that depending on the skill set and availability of your skills, that companies will be accepting of it anyway. Yeah. So yeah, I think you need to have those conversations.
Good. Okay. Jason is a solution architect in London, working for a telecoms company, or a telecoms industry, I should say. And he's asked us, what advice would you give to him, where he wants to move internally to another project. He's a contractor. He's been with one of the projects for about 11 months. But he's heard about another project in the business that feels much more interesting and might be more suitable for his skills. What would you suggest he does?
Again, I think it's a little bit what you said just then about having that relationship with your manager. How close are you? How honest can you be? Is it going to be of a detriment to you to actually have that conversation with him and ask? Is it possible for me to move? This looks exciting. I've been wanting to get into this skill set for a little while. Difficult to really judge that without knowing what your relationship's like internally. But if it's that important to you, there's nothing wrong with showing a bit of enthusiasm. It may be if you have that conversation with your line manager that there's something coming up in your team that's going to be a little bit more exciting, a little bit more dynamic. But yeah, I think if it's a real bugbear for you, you're going to have to at some point. Lock horns and ask that question.
It's a really good point actually, Jason, and it comes up a lot. This is more around, you've got hiring managers that are, I say fighting, but they're constantly talking to their internal resources within the organisation. So they're trying to pull resources and pull them around. Now, clearly the company, if they value your skills and experience, even as a contractor, would be more than happy and delighted that you're staying on within the organisation rather than taking your tacit knowledge somewhere else. So I think it's worth, go and have a conversation with your manager. By all means, go and have a coffee with a potential hiring manager, understand what they're trying to do. It might be that person that you're planning to move across to can have a conversation with your manager once you kind of found it out. And again, before that happens, you can be telling that manager, hey look, I've had a chat, I had a coffee with whoever, there's something going on there, it might be an opportunity for me to move across. Would you be open to having letting that conversation happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the only way it can really happen, isn't it? And also, there may be some of that team who are in your team, so it may actually work out, balance out quite well. Have that chat.
Just don't be afraid to have the conversation, Jason. And there's an opportunity there, and I'm sure they'll be delighted to keep you on within the business anyway. Right, that's the questions for this week. Thanks, Mark, for joining me. If you've got any questions that you'd like to have answered, I see a couple of people have messaged us about CVs today, so we'll be happy to look at those. If you've got any questions, obviously we're moving into the latter part of the year. We've only got less than 3 months till Christmas, madly, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got
very
quick, isn't it?
So it's coming up fast, and then 2018 being gone. So if you're thinking of a move, or you're thinking about what your next career situation is, feel free to get in touch. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Good stuff.